one of the greatest coaches in the history of this game, Bill Belichick, is making history right now, Mitchell. He's making history in the worst possible way. Since the 1970 merger, the New England Patriots have never lost consecutive games by 30 points. Mitchell, they have been outscored 72-3 in the last two games. Defensive genius Bill Belichick has been outscored 72-3 in the last few games. If this was anybody else, if this was Sean Payton, Nathaniel Hackett getting blown out of the water like this, Mitchell, you would be calling for his job. Now, Bill Belichick has earned the right to complete any season in which he started. There's no question about that. But there are some questions and concerns. Should he retire or resign before things get even further out of hand, before these teams lose more games? If he goes 3-14 this year, or 3-14 or 4-13 this year, what does that do for his legacy? What does that say about the time with Tom Brady, the time without Tom Brady? Because his record without Tom Brady is only getting worse. And the narrative about his time without Tom Brady is only getting worse because you're playing GM and head coach, and everybody gave you credit. Hey, Bill Belichick can pretty much do whatever he wants. He doesn't have to talk in the media because that's just Belichick. That's just what he does. And that's fine as long as you're winning. But when you've gotten blown out, you were held scoreless in the last game. You benched your starting quarterback twice, but you're saying he's still your guy. You have little to no chance to win the division or go into the playoffs this year. Likely going to pick in the top 10. There are concerns. There are questions that need to be answered, and it's up to Robert Kraft to say, how long do you let him go? Do you let him go until Bill doesn't want to coach anymore? Do you let him go or do you fire him? I don't think you can fire a Bill Belichick. I don't think that's possible.
Out of respect to him and the career he's had, it's going to be very, very difficult. And I can't imagine he's going to go peacefully, Rich. I mean, but like you said, this is his legacy here. Maybe he's setting this up. Maybe, just maybe, Rich, listen to me here real quick. Have you heard of a gentleman's name called Caleb Williams? He said that they need a factory reset. They need to restart. That'd be the quickest restart they could possibly have, is getting Caleb Williams in New England ASAP. But Richard, that game right there, like you said, Mac Jones, his fourth pick six in Gillette Stadium. You know who also had 4 pick sixes in Gillette Stadium throughout his career? Thomas Brady. So he's already over there breaking records, just the wrong ones.
Mitchell, Tom Brady played there for like 16, 17 years. This man did it. He ain't even out of his rookie deal.
And to think that those over in 49er land were wanting Mac Jones, man, I think they still made the right pick, albeit Trey Lance is no longer on the team, but I think you can make a strong argument Trey Lance is still the better quarterback than Mac Jones. But Richard, we got to squeeze it in. We got a sponsor here. And now for a segment brought to you by Uber Eats, it's the almost perfect events where we highlight the NFL defense that put on the week's most dominating performance. And I don't even know if we want to call this the almost perfect defense, because what the New Orleans Saints did this past Sunday, putting a blanking the New England Patriots, that's about as perfect as you can get in the NFL, Richard. Let's talk about the Saints real quick. Do you owe them anything with this win, or is it more just the Patriots being an absolute mess right now?
I think it's a combination of both. You give the New Orleans Saints credit. They have had an elite defense. They have played really well. They had a bit of a hiccup game versus the Green Bay Packers, in which they were in control defensively, especially for most of that game. Jordan Love made some winning plays the last couple of drives, was able to get some points on the board and win that game. But consistently over the history of the New Orleans Saints, they've had a very stingy defense, and they still do. But you have to give a lot of blame to Bill Belichick and New England Patriots, and Mac Jones has not played well, did not play well against the Dallas Cowboys. And you saw what you thought their defense was, and against an elite offense with a quarterback who throws the ball where it's supposed to go, and Brock Purdy, who should be the leading candidate for MVP of the league right now. You see what they did. They put up 42 points and could have put up more if they really felt like it in that game. So it's not that this defense is unflappable. but they did play really well, and they look like a dumpster fire in New England.
Well, that's this week's almost perfect defense of the week. And remember, you can order almost anything you want with Uber Eats, the official on-demand partner of the NFL. Order now.
But you can't order an offense, and you can't order a franchise quarterback. And despite the fact that New England thought they had one, they do not. And now they have to make a decision. Do you pay Mac Jones? Do you not pay him? Do you pick up his fifth-year option? That's an answer I don't want to give, and I don't want to choose, because you're not going to be picking high enough to get Caleb Williams.
I'll give you a quick answer on that, Richard. No, you don't. You don't. You let him sail off into the sunset. You take it is what it is. I don't think he's the answer in New England.
Football is back. No more preseason games. The regular season is here. While we all love watching our favorite teams on television, there is nothing better than being at a game live and in person. And the best way to get tickets to any of these games is on Game Time, the fastest growing ticket app in the U.S. For last-minute amazing deals on tickets to see your favorite football team this September, download Game Time. And it's not just football. Game Time has tickets to baseball games, concerts, and even comedy shows all over the U.S. Download the Game Time app and redeem code Sherman for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the Game Time app and use the redeem code Sherman. That's SHERMAN for $20 off. No matter where you live, get out and have some fun this week. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
Let's call it the Nathaniel Hackett revenge game, Richard. Mile High Stadium, the Denver Broncos desperately have needed a win for the last 2 years or so, it seems, Richard. And they can't get it against the man who did the worst coaching job that Sean Payton has ever seen. 31-21, New York Jets led by Zach Wilson get a double-digit win on the road. Your thoughts, Richard?
Well, the Wilson versus Wilson game that everybody was on the edge of their seats about, Mitchell. Everybody knew this would be the game of the week. It wasn't. But Zach Wilson played really well. Russell Wilson, before the game-sealing fumble, was playing solid football. That defense for the Denver Broncos is letting them down. Breece Hall said, hey, give me the ball. Give me the freaking ball more. They gave him the ball 22 times. I didn't understand why they were giving Dalvin Cook the ball more than Breece Hall, when Breece Hall has clearly shown explosive ability last year and even this year, and they wouldn't give him the ball. It didn't make sense. I don't know what that was, but they got it corrected. He averaged 8 yards a carry on 22 carries for 177 yards. Every time they needed a big play, he gave it to him. Zach Wilson did not lose him the game. He's playing much better football, better controlling the game, managing the game, making sure he doesn't turn the ball over, getting the ball to his playmakers in space. He should be applauded for that. The Jets defense made plays when they need to. That D-line was playing ferocious football. You saw the forced safety when Russell Wilson tried to throw the ball away because he was in the grasp, and it ended up being an intentional grounding in the end zone. And then you go back to what Sean Payton said before the season even started. And he showed the Broncos driving off the cliff and how terrible Nathaniel Hackett was. And you start to think, you wonder, do those Denver players probably have a little bit of loyalty to Nathaniel Hackett, just a little bit, because they don't have any loyalty to you yet, Sean, especially when you haven't shown them anything. You haven't shown them love and respect. You can't come into a program and say, hey, you guys know who I am. You need to respect me. I'll figure out if I'm going to respect you guys and if I'm going to know who you are. Like, that's not how you build a culture and build a team. You don't just sit there and say, hey, you guys suck last year, but here I come to save you. You talk to guys eye to eye with respect and love and appreciation, and you guys build it together. And I think that's the problem. These guys could be 1-8. They could be 1-8 going forward. I mean, they got a tough game against the Packers coming up. They play the Packers, then I think they play the Chiefs. Then maybe it's Buffalo, and then the Chiefs again. I mean, they have a schedule where they could lose 5 of the next 6 and be in an uglier spot. And you look at last year when Nathaniel Hackett, they had won 2 games at this point. They had already won 2 games. So I think you saw that the New York Jets went out there and fought hard for Nathaniel Hackett. You heard the players talk about it. Let's win this one for Hack. That's a love and that's a respect. That's a thing where guys are going to sacrifice a little more. They're going to dig a little deeper in this game to try to win it. Then you saw the Denver Broncos. They weren't fighting for Sean Payton. You don't see them digging a little deeper for Sean Payton. You don't even see them really disgusted when they lose. That defense, when they give up big plays, it's just like, hey, well, I mean, whatever. Ejiro Evero had that defense playing a whole different level than Vance Joseph has them playing. And you start to wonder what changed, because a lot of the personnel is the same. But you still got a guy like at the corner position, Patrick Surtain, still playing at a high level. But you just don't see the conviction there, and you wonder what's going to happen if this team is 1-8, 1-9 going forward. What do they do?
This team's been a team without a pulse for the last couple of years now, Richard, and it's got to be unsettling in Denver. You know that's a fan base that's used to winning, and this is not what they signed up for over the last couple of years. Richard, Sean Payton was the biggest name on the market, and he promised, he promised Denver the promised land, and right now it's not looking very good at all. Do you think Sean Payton's regretting taking this job at this point?
I'm sure there's a part of him regretting it, but he also knows he has time. He has time. They traded a first-round pick and gave him a lot of money. You're not just going to get rid of him. He's not on the hot seat, because you can't. If you get rid of him, what you going to do?